Good afternoon. If I could welcome everyone to the inaugural celebration of the Public Safety Distinguished Service Award ceremony. We are going to get started. I'm Sonia Toller, the Public Information Officer for the City of Pittsburgh Public Safety Department, and I'd like to welcome you. This is going to be an exciting ceremony. Hopefully it will go swiftly, but we have a lot of honors to hand out for some very brave acts. And let me tell you that the people who work for the Public Safety Department, they don't consider what they do heroic or brave. It's what they signed on for. It's what they trained for. And in my mind, that's another reason why we need to celebrate them, because when many people are running away from the danger, they put their lives in harm's way to make sure that we're all safe, and we need to congratulate them for that. If we could, we're going to begin with the presentation of the colors. Please rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order! Oh! Right, please. Forward. Up.
At this time, I'd like to call to the podium Father Michael Stumpf. He's a member of the clergy, and he's always there to support our men and women in the Public Safety Fire Bureau. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to please be seated, if that's okay. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. Obviously something that's a little outside my normal congregation, let's say. So very often I'm invited to give invocations and or blessings, and I'd just like to talk about that in a little different way and actually offer a blessing that may seem a little different. In order to do that, I would like to share a brief story with you. There was a gentleman who just died in the last 25 years named Henry Nouwen. And Henry Nouwen was an author. He was an educator, a teacher, a professor at some of the major universities here in the United States, Harvard, Yale, Notre Dame University. He wrote many spiritual books and was a spiritual guide for many. He just happened to be from my tradition, which is from the Roman Catholic tradition. After teaching for many years, he decided to change his direction, his career path, and he took a chaplaincy job at a community called the L'Arche community, and he took it in Toronto, Canada. And a L'Arche community is a community that gathers together people of, let's say, different abilities. Those who have extreme special needs and abilities, both mentally as well as physically, as well as those who would be considered normal abilities. And they live together in community life, and there's a kind of a symbiotic relationship and a growth that happens and support of all because of that. One day, Janet, who was severely disabled, approached Henry Nouwen and said to him, "Father Henry, I would like a blessing." And of course, in the midst of many things, Henry turned towards her and did within the Christian and the Catholic tradition, put his hand on her forehead and just traced the sign of the cross on her forehead. And Janet was upset with him and said, "No, Father Henry, I want a real blessing." And Henry Nouwen was kind of taken aback and was confused and didn't know exactly what that meant. And so he stalled. and said, "Janet, at the closing prayer of this day, I will give you a real blessing." And that was just the time that he needed. And he still was kind of confused and really didn't know what Janet was really asking for. So in the middle of the prayer service, at the end of the evening, he stood up and said, "Folks, Janet has asked me for a special blessing, a real blessing." And at that moment, Janet ran up and gave him a great big bear hug, and he, in turn, enveloped her. And he looked at her and said, "Janet, you are a child of God. You are beloved by God. You have a beautiful smile. The people in the house recognize you and the good things that you offer. You are a beautiful human being. I know sometimes that you have low days and that sometimes you have sadness in your heart, but remember who you are. You're a very special person. You're deeply loved by God and the people who are here with you." And with that, Janice gave him a great big broad smile, and he realized for the first time maybe what real blessings were all about. Sometimes when people ask for things like blessings, we think that maybe like a person of authority or a religious person or somebody of designated power brings something down from on high upon something or people, and that makes them somehow different or better or more dignified or holy. But really, true blessings are acknowledging in thankfulness the blessings that exist. Many of you are going to be receiving awards this afternoon, acknowledgement of great heroism, courage, and usually difficult and particular times. But you could only do that if each and every day who you are and what you do already is blessing and blessed. And so I offer you today a real blessing. I just remind you, you are children of God, whatever that means to you. You're beloved by God and beloved by this community. Thank you for the service and the communities that you serve. Blessings.
Thank you for that special blessing, Father. We're going to change the program just slightly. I'm going to bring up our Mayor, William Peduto.
Thank you. And Father, that was a beautiful story, and it reminds me of a story some of you may have heard from our dear friend, Father Jack O'Malley. Jack is the priest who has been at the forefront of social justice, labor issues, and really working to make sure that everybody is taken care of. And he told a story about an event that he was at recently where he was being recognized, and there was an old political warhorse, a Western Pennsylvania politician who's been around for quite some time, number of years, and they were backstage getting ready to go up on the dais, and the politician looked at Father and he said, "Father, can I have a blessing? I need your help." And he said, "Of course, my son." And he said, "What is it that's your intention?" And he said, "You know, I'm getting old, and I'm getting worried about my hearing." And so Father Jack placed his hands on both of his ears, and he said a prayer. And then he whispered to him, "How is your hearing now, my son?" And he looked and he said, "Oh no, Father, my hearing's next week." Father Jack actually said that joke. It's a great joke. I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Teresa Cale-Smith, who is here with us. Councilwoman, thank you for being here. And just to recognize what people would call the folks that don't get the recognition. The ones who don't appear in the papers like the politicians and others, the ones who go day by day doing their job and do it to such a level that it not only affects other people, but in many cases it saves other people's lives. And that's what we're here to recognize today. The ones that have gone beyond the call of duty and in a recognition that they have earned of being able to say thank you. Thank you for the service that you give to others Thank you for your service in uniform for the people of the city of Pittsburgh. Now, we're going to recognize several people today, but this is only a small part of the vast number of people that we could be honoring. Every week, there is an incident that occurs where somebody in uniform goes beyond the call of duty, beyond what their training has given, beyond what their authority or even their responsibility is. And they do it out of courage, and they do it out of love of fellow human beings. And that's why we have created this award, to be able to give the earned recognition to those that have stood above, and to understand that that is only a small portion of those that do it every day. So, on behalf of the people of the city of Pittsburgh, thank you for your work, thank you for your passion, and thank you for making Pittsburgh the type of city that we can all be proud of.
Next, we're going to call to the podium Director Wendell Hissrich.
Thank you, Sonia. Good afternoon. Welcome to the officers, firefighters, paramedics, families, and friends to the first Public Safety Distinguished Awards. Shortly after I arrived in January, I recommended to the mayor that there be a mechanism to award our public safety personnel that have performed above and beyond the call of duty. Without any hesitation, the mayor agreed, provided support, and stated that he would attend each and every one of the ceremonies. So far, Mayor, you've lived up to your promise. Thank you for providing your support and your attendance here today. Today, during a time that there's much criticism, especially of law enforcement throughout the U.S., we want to pause and discuss some of the exceptional work that the personnel from the Pittsburgh Department of Public Safety has done during the past 6 months. I've stated before that any mistakes we make are reported in the media for days, weeks, or even months. The good saves, rescues, or arrests may receive a mention if we are lucky for a 24-hour news cycle, and that's it. The Public Safety Distinguished Service Award is meant to recognize the individuals from the bureaus of police, fire, emergency management, EMS, and animal care and control who have performed above and beyond the call of duty. These duties have surpassed the already high expectations that we place upon our public safety officials day in and day out. In giving this award, I personally thank each and every one of them for their dedication to excellence. I also would like to mention that the events we are about to recognize today is a sample of what public safety personnel do day in and day out. I would like to take a minute and just read a couple of the emails of the many that passed through my office during the past month. The first email is to a police officer from a commander. It was brought to my attention that you responded to Stanton Avenue and Mellon Street early this morning for a female in her 70s who was a victim of a purse snatching. The victim had her money and bank cards stolen in the robbery after she was shoved to the ground by the robber. I was told that after gathering the information for the report, you took the victim to the Waterworks Mall, where she was headed anyway, and bought her breakfast at Starbucks. I wanted to pass along my most sincere thanks for going that extra mile for this victim. I imagine she was traumatized by the robbery and clearly in a predicament of having no money or identification with her. The compassion you showed her will be something that stays with her for a long time and is the reason so many of our residents are supportive of Zone 5. Another email. Commander Krudroff, I wanted to take a moment and express my thanks to your station. I wanted you to know the actions of your officers on the afternoon of August 24th were of help to our family. Our son Toby passed away that afternoon, and your officers selflessly helped me when I came into the station asking for a ride to Forbes Hospital in Monroeville to get to Toby and my husband. Some may say that it was only a ride or it didn't mean anything because of the nightmare that our family is now living. But those actions helped me get to my husband and hold Toby even though he was already gone. I stopped into your station last Thursday and dropped off some baked goods and a letter for you. I'm hoping you received it and were able to share it with the officers that were on duty that day. I've attached a copy of the letter just in case it did not make to your desk. Your staff did not have to help me that day. This I know, but they did so, and for that I'm grateful. You have some very caring officers under your command. Thank you to you and your staff for the assistance they provided that day. It's stories like these that don't make the news. The Pittsburghers should thank their public safety personnel on a daily basis. Additionally, above all, I thank the family and friends of the public safety members. Without your support and trust, they would have much less inspiration to begin their shift, rush towards danger, and see that both they and their charges make it through the day. Thank you to all the public safety personnel with us today and those that couldn't be with us because they are out on the street keeping us all safe. Thank you and congratulations.
And now we will begin the award presentation. You two want to step down? Okay. First, I'd like to call Police Officer Spencer Scott, who is being honored today for the use of Narcan the first use of Narcan by a member of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police. Spencer Scott. It was approximately 7:30 p.m. on August the 12th when Officer Scott was dispatched to Market Square for a report about two unresponsive males. At the scene, Officer Scott observed both men lying on the ground. They were overdosing. As Sergeant Lynn Cohnfelder administered CPR, Officer Scott retrieved a bag valve mask from the Narcan kit that Pittsburgh police officers are now utilizing. He administered one dose of Narcan to the man while firefighters attended to the other man. The chaotic incident was a display of cooperative efforts among police, fire, and EMS. Officer Scott now holds a place in history as the first Pittsburgh police officer to successfully administer Narcan. Thank you. Animal Care and Control Officers Jimmy Jenko and Leo Minson. Shortly before 9 a.m. on September 27th, Animal Care and Control received a call reporting a deer that had been trapped in a fence. This was in a relatively wooded area along Television Hill in Fineview. Animal Care Officers Jenko and Minson responded to the scene to find the deer unable to free itself. Its head was trapped in the fence. With teamwork among Zone 1 police officers and Public Works, the deer was kept calm as the fence was bent. As soon as the deer was freed, it immediately jumped up and ran off. I'm sure it shared some interesting stories with the other deers when it returned. Thank you. Firefighters Darius Allman, Mike Buckley, William Sinker, Danny Doyle, Fred Hunt, Sean Kirby, Curtis Caruth, Matthew Novatoni, forgive me if I mispronounce that, Jesse Pierce, Ronald Pulaski, and Justin Zetek, paramedics Aaron Byrne and Russell Diamond. While returning from a different call at approximately 6:56 a.m. on September the 4th, firefighters from 10 engines spotted smoke coming from the residence just yards away from the station on Terrace Street. Joined by 14 truck, they began to extinguish the fire and successfully prevented it from spreading to other units. 2 men were rescued from the residence and delivered to the care of paramedics. Sadly, 1 victim was pronounced deceased. While our hearts mourn the loss of the life, it is at times like these that it's easy to miss the brave acts of our firefighters, who humbly say that this is what they were trained to do. Thank you all. Police officers Jeffrey Blasco, Melissa DeVal, Elvis Doradovic, Patrick Knepp, who is not present with us today and sends his regrets, Brian Marcus, and Andre Wright, and Alan Hausman of the Public Safety Administration staff. On August the 28th, heavy rain caused flash flooding in low-lying areas throughout the city, including along Washington Boulevard. Water pressure sent manhole covers flying into the air. Sergeant Patrick Knepp was notified of the situation and immediately ordered the closing of Washington Boulevard. As officers evacuated motorists from the roadway, a female driver became trapped in quickly rising water. Sergeant Knepp advised her to stay in the car and to keep the doors and windows closed. The officers each entered the swift-moving water. Alan Hausman transported 1 officer into the dangerous waters in a truck. Without being able to see the missing manhole covers, every inch they moved was potentially fatal. They made their way to the trapped vehicle and rescued the victim with the help of a rope. Their sole purpose was freeing her alive and breathing, and that is exactly what they did. Officers put their own lives at risk to save 1. Thank you. The next category is also a mayoral commendation presentation. Can we please have paramedics Mark Bassano, John Dromboski, and Jennifer McDermott Grubb? At approximately 10:15 on September the 25th, a 53-year-old male runner from Newcastle went into cardiac arrest and collapsed near the intersection of 5th Avenue and Craig Street along the route for the Richard S. Caligiuri City of Pittsburgh Great Race. As fate would have it, 3 paramedics were nearby Jennifer McDermott Grubb and John Dombrowski were running the race and began administering CPR. EMS crew chief Bassano arrived on a motorcycle. Yes, our paramedics are also on motorcycles. And they used a defibrillator to administer a life-saving electric current to the patient's chest. Paramedics were able to maintain a pulse as they transported him to UPMC Presbyterian. The patient survived as a result of the efforts of this group of paramedics and the excellent care received at the hospital. Thank you. And today has been quite a pleasure for me. I am often out there, along with my colleague Emily Schaefer, telling the stories to the media. And it is a pleasure to be able to honor these brave men and women for the work that they do, instead of always focusing on the bad things that happen. So thank you. Thank your families for the support. And we have one more thank you. Outside, we have some light refreshments, so please help yourself and enjoy.